Welcome to the Waves Business Coaching Podcast, where we help business leaders and owners build their dream team. Quick reminder, my book, Master Your First Job, is still out. It's going to be out forever, which is a nice thing about books. But I've heard so much great feedback from the book so far of how it's helped first-time employees, but not only that, how it's helped business owners lead first-time employees and young talent. And so if you want to learn more about the book, go to masteryourfirstjob.com and I'll give you the audiobook and a video summary absolutely free if you go ahead and visit the site there. This week on the podcast, I bring on Andrew Windham. Andrew is a financial expert. He owns a business called Educated Freedom, and he's helping business owners implement a simple automated cash flow system to give them true freedom that they desire as a business owner. Andrew talks through a lot of that and about financial stuff that's so important for business owners to know. So let's dive into my conversation with Andrew Windham of Educated Freedom. Andrew, thank you so much for being on the Waves Business Coaching Podcast. I'd love if you could introduce yourself and tell us what Educated Freedom is all about.
Well, first, thanks for having me. It's awesome to be here. I'm really excited about your new book and the people it's going to touch. It's good stuff. And I know the excitement you have right now is you're starting to grow your business, and I think it was a great decision to do the book.
Thank you.
And I know that people are going to be blessed by what you're doing. So thanks for letting me hang out with somebody cool like you.
I appreciate it, man. Well, hey, tell us about you and what is Educated Freedom all about?
Yeah, so my name's Andrew Windham. I think my greatest accomplishment is my wife and my three boys coming up on, we've crossed 24, so I'm trying to get to 25 years with my wife.
On the way.
And, just like business and life, it's harder than I expected, but more rich and fulfilling than I could have ever imagined. Got three boys, Alex, Carter, and Davis. Two of them, Alex and Carter, running at Milligan University in Johnson City, Tennessee. And my youngest is at University of Ole Miss in Oxford, and he's starting his second year there.
There you go.
And thriving and doing awesome. We literally got everybody moved in at the first part of this week. So me and the wife are back to empty nesting, and we're going to take a little trip to Amelia Island, one of our favorite places, next weekend to celebrate the long weekend together.
I love it. Yeah, I went to Amelia Island growing up, so very familiar there. I love Amelia Island myself as well. Been a few years though since we've been there.
You got to go back, man, and go on the weekend so you can go get this big 40-ounce bone-in ribeye over at the French Market. It's awesome.
That sounds good. I'm going to have to add that to the list.
Two things I never get tired of, chocolate and steak, man.
There you go. And sometimes you can get it at the same place.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome. So tell us about your business, Andrew. You Educated Freedom. We've talked about cash flow stuff we're going to get into. So how do you help business owners who might be listening to this episode?
Well, so I think I'd like to start with saying COVID, as my mentor, Don Blanton, said, was God's way of sending us to our room for time out. And some people used it well and listened, and other folks, it really put them in a tailspin. And for me, I'd been running a college planning business for 12, 13 years, highly successful, but most of our relationships in marketing, Jacob, was through school workshops, partnering with guidance counselors, and schools were struggling like all of us in some way or another. They were struggling just to effectively get teachers to use Zoom and things that we now use without thinking.
Right.
And to teach kids. And so I just said, hey, this is never going to work. And we got to figure out a way to eat. Right. And so, I sought to start a brand, hired some folks at Brand Builders to go through a brand building workshop with Rory Vaden's group, and Educated Freedom came out of that.
Okay.
And it was going to be a transition to a podcast, which is Educated Freedom, Culture, Career, and Cash Flow. Currently on pause, but about to stand that back up with a change. Another story for another day. But as I was spending quiet time just forced because you didn't have all the hustle and bustle, I was spending more time than ever in the Word, quiet time, journaling, trying to figure things out. And I'm like, I'm kind of tired, if you will, of a little bit of the babysitting that just goes with managing the college process, because we managed everything from A to Z. we still have that business, but it just wasn't as fulfilling for me personally.
Right.
And I said, well, who do I love working with? And I just love working with entrepreneurs and founders. It's the way I think. My wife says I'm a serial entrepreneur. That's probably very true, with all the pros and the faults that go with that. The faults for me probably more than the pros, right? But so we started doing that. But in that process, I noticed when I was working with pretty successful business owners, and I love hearing their story, Jacob. Like, to me, that's the coolest part.
Yeah.
Right. You meet a business owner. Like, I'm mesmerized and could talk for hours with a business owner, because I get so much energy from their passion about why they're doing and I love the space where they start a business because they want freedom. And I often say, a business to an entrepreneur is kind of like a drill is for us at Home Depot when we want a hole, but we often forget we don't want the drill to go sport it around and show it off to our friends. We want what the drill gives us, which is the hole, whatever we may need for that, whether it's hang a picture on the wall,
right,
for remembering people that we love or care about, or experiences of those types of things, or various and sundry other things that we might need a hole in the wall or within something we may be crafting or making.
Yeah.
Business owners, I love, and I believe entrepreneurs are really in that spirit, is what our country was founded on. And so through that transition, I noticed that business owners were a lot of times really great at making money, Jacob, but they were even more impressively capable of giving it away. And it just broke my heart, because I saw people growing their own jail cell or their own job. And I'm like, I could make a difference or an impact here, if that makes sense. And so our ideal client is a faith-forward, purpose-driven, legacy-committed founder.
Yeah.
Typically doing $5 million in revenue. They're happily married, and we jokingly say they have kids and a dog. And the reason they have both is because life is richest and most meaningful there. But that also becomes the standard. They're just hoping to be 50% as good as their dog and their kids think they are, and to have a memory that's like a goldfish and love people and do life with people like their dog does every time we go away for work and we come home. Like, I've got 2 beagles that come to the office, but if I leave them at home, Jacob, if you're gone like 4 hours, you come home and it's like a king or queen's welcome. You've been gone for years.
That's right.
Right? And it feels good. What can I say?
That's right. I've got a dog myself, so almost fit that bill. We got to get to the financial growth part of that, but fit the other part. So I know that you mentioned Educated Freedom offers family office services, and we talked about this, but for those unfamiliar at a high level, what exactly does that entail? And especially for founders that you talked about that you serve?
Well, the traditional family office began in Britain. It was for ultra wealthy families, and some people don't have a way to relate to that. That's the Rockefellers. Locally here, it would be folks like the Cathy family, Arthur Blank, et cetera.
Yep.
And in the financial world, when we hear about asset managers, they may have a minimum of 5 million, 10 million. That's usually assets to manage. So a financial advisor that gets paid on managing assets is not dying to have a client who's in real estate with $10 million worth of assets, because there's not a mechanism for a lot of those folks to get paid. Right.
Right.
And I love what C12 says, an organization for Christian men, where it basically says, look, if there's no margin, meaning margin in life and profit margin, then there's no mission.
That's right.
If you will. So, but a family office, typically, for it to make financial sense, the numbers to break even, you need about $400 million of assets. Okay. Now that's more people in this world than most folks could imagine, but it's not anywhere close to the majority. And so my heart is for those entrepreneurs, business owners, founders that are, maybe 1 million and up, but there's a huge void between, 5 million to 100 million for business owners.
That's right. Huge.
They're doing awesome stuff,
Yeah.
but they're just short on bandwidth and time. And just transparently, I was reading Alex Hermosi's book, and if you're not familiar with it, I think it's on page 52. Yeah, that's how many times I've read it, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the bottom of the equation is simply this at the top. The way you deliver value is the top half of the equation, or I guess it would be the numerator for the math geeks out there.
That's right.
It's what's the dream and how realistic is it? It's the multiplication of those two things. But at the bottom, it's what's the pain and suffering that's associated with that to be true, and how long or the delay that it's going to take.
Right.
And the thing that I saw over and over and over again for business owners was the dream of freedom. The longer they were in business, the greater they grew the monster, the less likely this felt. And it's the Dunning-Kruger effect in perfect example. Like, they don't know what they don't know, and the more they know, the more they realize that they've underestimated and overcommitted.
Right.
And the financial aspect is, we tell business owners that we work with, I can't run your business, but I can turnkey your finances personally and professionally.
Yeah.
If you'll give us what we need to serve you. And so we've just built a model that's a flat fee for service, that we just take care of everything for them, so that they spend 20 hours or less annually on all the decisions, the due diligence required to make a fully informed decision, which most folks aren't doing because they just don't know what they don't know. And then, just because you make a decision, as we all know, if we don't take action or execute,
That's right,
we don't get the fruits of that labor. So that's our spot, and we love it because we're giving business owners decades of their life back to be able to get into the best half, which is the second half of their life, and to actually attain the freedom that they want, and frankly, that we're called and created to enjoy and have, so we can literally be a vessel and serve others. So podcast, culture, career, cash flow. It's like we're a culture of one that leads a culture within our family that then spills over into our business. Chick-fil-A is such a great example of that.
Yeah.
And then career, the reality is we're really only good at 3 to 5 things. Or let me restate that. We're really only exceptional at 3 to 5 things. And the problem is, it's the good to great. We're so busy doing good and great stuff that we're not spending enough time doing exceptional, which is where we get exponentially rewarded. And it's really where God has created us to serve one another. And so my belief is, when we fail to stay in those 3 to 5 capabilities, we're actually lowering the tide. But if we'll get clear on what those 3 to 5 are and serve there, and go get people around us who have a heart for people and serving one another in their 3 to 5, it raises the tide in all boats. And the last piece is just that cash flow. In business, we need cash flow for the business to go. But the reality is, it's a function of stewardship of our resources, time, talents, and, finances. And then it goes right back collectively to that parable of talents. God's gift to us is our 3 to 5 capabilities. Our gift to God is, how do we steward those in a way that it glorifies and serves him and the kingdom and those types of things. And it's not about talking about it. It's like, what do we do about it? Right?
Right. I want to help some business owners feel heard here. So I love what you talked about being good at being exceptional at 3 to 5 things. And I can attest to that, where I know that one of the 3 to 5 things that I'm not exceptional at is cash flow management. And I think that a lot of business owners could empathize with that, is that, hey, you're good at whatever your business is, whatever your problem solves. And maybe cash flow is not one of those 3 to 5 things that you're exceptional at. And I know, my past working with Chick-fil-A, like, I know a lot of Chick-fil-A operators there because they are phenomenal at managing people or running a restaurant and being super efficient, and like, we're just leading a team of 100 plus, and they're phenomenal at that. But maybe cash flow is not one of them. So can you just help some business owners feel heard? Like, as you talk to clients, what do you typically find is like the biggest pain points that you talked about when it comes to cash flow? Like, what's keeping them up at night, and what's getting in the way of them having simple cash flow?
So number one, we hear this buzzword right now, of 10x.
Yep.
And business owners struggle with how can we 2x or 3x, or we do these big, hairy, audacious goals. But the real issue is we're probably not going to have a shot to 10x unless we change our perspective with another, almost overused, poorly understood who versus how.
Yep.
Right. So then we tie that into willpower simply does not work in our age, in our time, with a battle for our time, our focus, our attention. Oh, by the way, then we're trying to be a good husband or wife, father or mother, son or daughter to our sibling, to our, pitch in like what life's authentically, not what we see on LinkedIn and Facebook and all that stuff.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
It's like the stuff, I call them dash matters, right? What we do between when we're born and when God calls us, that's the dash. And what are we doing at the dash that matters, right? Yeah. And so if we count on willpower, it doesn't work because the environment works 24/7, 365. So it's, if we plan to fail, if we fail to plan, we plan to fail. And part of planning is, are we honest and realistic about what works? So here's a great example. Dave Ramsey, known for, finances and financial peace. Okay. Yep. But if we really get focused on what he does well at getting people out of debt. And so he used to have an envelope system, right?
Yep.
But if we seek to go put that cash envelope system in play, it's not realistic or viable. So that's part of a good plan, right? Why is it not viable? Well, go try to pay, the $10 to get into a high school football game here in one of these Friday nights. And they'll look at you like you're literally trying to give them the bubonic plague or maybe the newest variant of COVID, right?
That's right.
So everything's digital. Okay. So what are the concepts of that worked? It was an environment that gave us some structure and some personal awareness, accountability. Okay. But where do we live? We can lie, but we live on this, a phone, right? And so how do we live? We live by looking at our bank app, and we say, like business owners do, there's money in the bank, I'm good. That's how I ran my college planning business when we started in 2008. I look back knowing what I know now, and I'm like, holy cow, like I don't even know how we made it for 3 years. Right?
That's right.
But I do know it was because if there was not enough cash in the bank, I'd go sell something, right? But that's not really a business. That's a sales job, right? And so we need a system. So recently, not recently, most things that work, you spend a lot of time working them. I've spent 2+ years building what we call simple automated cash flow in a system. And you know what the craziest thing is? I greatly undervalued and appreciated like the vision that was given as I developed it. And recently I was sharing that in a mastermind scenario. And the ask was, because we were working on a lead magnet and some other things, right? The amount of feedback, Jacob, that I got from business owners that were in that group that I knew business-wise were killing it. Like, not they were doing the social media facade deal. They were killing it. Some of them making $50,000, $150,000 a month business revenue, not what they put in their pocket, right?
Right.
I'm like, hey, when we go through this, I want you to tell me, like, what are the emotions, the thoughts, the things that popped in your head as we started, good, bad, and different, as we were going through it, and at the end. And you know what we heard over and over again, Jacob?
What's that?
I feel like a fraud.
Why?
Here's why. As a business owner, how often would we take a client who would not pay us? How long could we stay in business if we didn't get paid for the services and the products we deliver?
Not very long if you're not starting with much cash.
Yeah. And then as we grow and we add a team member, maybe it's even a virtual assistant, right? You go hire Belay, which is a great VA company, right? How long do you think Belay would show up and allow somebody on their team, or any team member for that matter, if you didn't pay them? Or what's the probability they join your team if you didn't tell them what you were going to pay them and when you were going to pay them, and that was consistently their experience?
Right. Not long. I mean, I'd quit immediately.
Yeah. But what are we doing to ourselves?
Exactly that.
As a business owner, we wear two hats. We work in the business, and ideally, hopefully, in time, we grow a team so we can get closer to that 3 to 5. But we also are the owner. And by the way, a self-managed company, which is what ideally we should want, doesn't require us to work in the business. But while we're working in the business, we got to get paid just like our vendors.
That's right.
Just like our team members. Okay. And so the reason they felt like a fraud is they're like, yeah, my wife's always nagging at me. Like, why do we lose you on the time? Why did you miss Johnny or Susie's soccer game or dance recital? And then, like, we're not even sure we're going to be able to pay the bills. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So simple automated cash flow is a way to be able to help a business owner make sure that the home front is safe.
Yep.
So that they don't have all these unnecessary things that are biting them when they come home. Because let's be honest, I mean, you go to battle every day in your business. When you come home, what do you want to do? Like, oh, I just need a reserve.
Right.
I need a safe place.
That's right.
And so I've recently discovered like just how valuable and impactful that could be. And so we're building a way not to make a buck off that, just to serve people and help them get that in place, because it's a simple process and system. Doesn't cost anything.
Right. Can you give me an example of how this has transformed someone or a business owner's financial management, or given what you're saying, even beyond that, how has it transformed someone's personal life implementing this kind of system?
Well, I'm going to use my own example for 2 reasons. Okay. Number one, I'm a big believer, based off of a friend in a men's accountability group, that said, hey, look, you keep looking for somebody to lead you. You have what it takes to be a leader. Be the leader that you seek. Okay. Number one. Number two, if we're going to be authentic, we have to live in alignment. As I say, we want to live our highest purpose all day, every day, in every role that we play. So that starts with us.
Right.
It starts in the home, not as business owners often. That starts at business so I can make enough money so then I'll have time to do this. It does not work that way. We've got that upside down, and that's part of the perspective. But for me, we've done pretty well financially, right? A huge blessing, but there was constantly issues with me and my wife around money, right? Like she would, you know, and she's not even a spender. I'm probably the spender in the relationship, right? And there's usually a saver and spender. But what happened was every time we talked about money, like it sucked.
Yeah.
And I found myself avoiding it. And so I was trying to figure out, okay, what's a way that financially for my wife, I can create an environment that she feels safe. And so as we set it up, and we set up time to inspect what we expect with what we call the monthly audit that we can do in 15 minutes or less. You know, we had basically our monthly expense worksheet we were working through, and my wife would be like, I noticed she started justifying like, well, so the reason that we spent more on hair was because of this. And you know, I just got to thinking, I'm like, this sucks. Like, why does she feel like she has to justify that? Right? I don't care whether she spends $75 or $100 on her hair. Like, I mean, within reason, of course, right? But I want her to care for herself because she's invaluable for me and for my kids, right? And so what I found is it took 3, 4, 5 months. We started going, hey, look, it's just money. It only has the meaning we give it.
Right.
our dog would need to go to the vet. Hey, like I'm sorry I didn't stay within the budget. You know, Sugar got sick. We had to take her to the vet. Okay. Well, like she's basically a member of our family.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, if our kid had cancer, would I be beating her up or, you know, like the answer is no. Right. And so to be clear, hopefully I wasn't beating her up about that, but my perception and her reality were not aligned. And so this process has allowed us the freedom to get together, talk about money, and it's no longer filled with drama. So, in my personal experience, it's made my relationship with my wife so much better, so much healthier, because she doesn't feel like she's being judged financially, which is an area she's not great at. But here's the other catch. I spend all day, every day professionally working on money. And guess what? I don't really want to worry about when I go home. Money. It's the whole,
That's right.
It's the whole, you know, the cobbler's kid's shoes type of deal, right?
That's right.
But again, back to living and doing what I teach and preach. So I'm authentic, right? I had to fix that at home. So I needed a way that was simple. It was almost automated, right? And so we say simple automated cash flow system makes your personal finances automatically happen because we build the environment and the system to serve what it is that we want so that what we're doing and what we want are aligned. Because I'll tell you something, man. Most people are a lot better at finances than they think they are. Finances are really simple. This concept we call lifetime capital potential, which is a financial industry jargon, or human capital potential. That's really all it is, Jacob, is all the money that you're ever going to earn while you're here on the little green planet in your time on this earth.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you don't know what that is, but you probably underappreciate what it could be. And everybody thinks like, well, if I won the lottery, I would do money different, but you won't. You'll do it and default to whatever your environment and your systems and your habits are. So we've got the most money you'll ever make. And here's how we know whether you have enough. All the money you're ever going to make is equal to your current lifestyle plus your future lifestyle. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
And if you want to know what your current lifestyle is, take your tax return. You don't have to be a CPA. Look at your gross amount of income, subtract out what you pay for taxes, and subtract out what you're putting away for savings in a savings account, a 401k, or some other vehicle. The difference is your current lifestyle.
Yeah.
We don't have to argue about it. Like that's what it is.
Right.
So we're losing money unknowingly and unnecessarily because all our money lands in one account. We spend all our money out of one account. And the way we do life financially is because we're so busy and distracted. If there's money in the account, we're good. And the problem is we're not good because if our mortgage right now is $2,000, it's going to still cost to sleep inside 20 years from now.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And this idea that our house is an investment, it's not. Because you got to pay the HOA. You got to make sure the roof stays in good order. You got to paint. You got to do all of these things. So even if you pay the mortgage or the house off, as Dave Ramsey so frequently is an advocate for, not good or bad, I just say it costs to sleep inside, right? And so, but even if you pay it off, you still got to pay property taxes. You still got to maintain it. You still got to pay HOA, right? Yeah. And so it's always going to cost to sleep inside. And so at a bare minimum, like people say, well, how do I know what I need to be saving? Well, I can tell you this. If you're not saving at least the equivalent every single month for what you're paying to your mortgage, then you're going to need to figure out whether you like dry or wet dog food. And go ahead and start having a spoonful a day. So at least you're used to it and accustomed to it by the time you get there. So simple automated cash flow makes sure that what we're doing is aligned with what we want. Because if it's not, then what you think you want and what you're going to get, it's not possible. Right. And we know that from a common sense perspective, but we get so busy doing And we get so worried about the what that we forget the why.
Right. That's huge. If people want to find out more about how to do that and how to implement a system, a simple automated cash flow system, where can they find out that info? How can they get in contact with you and install that for themselves?
So we're literally about 3 or 4 days at the time of this conversation from having that done, but I think it will be done potentially by the time this airs live. But for now, I would say find me on LinkedIn and just shoot me a DM. Is probably the easiest way, or email me, andrew@educatedfreedom.com, and just put I want SACS, SACS, in the subject line, and we'll get you the lead magnet, the monthly expense worksheet, and if you want, we'll set up a call and we'll help you get it set up.
I love it. Andrew, thank you so much for being on. I know I learned a ton about cash flow and what I want versus what I'm spending. I'm already thinking about that for myself, and I know it's valuable for everyone else too as well. So thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.